patrons in vehicles argue my elusive steps through the blur of urgency. Here I'm always on my toes until an abrupt blonde door startling a porcelain blonde girl knocks me right onto my back.
Welcome to the 6th episode of the Casey Bates Podcast, a podcast where I sit down and talk with the people I've worked with over the years. This episode is part 1 of a 2-part series detailing the making of Forgive Durden's Wonderland, one of the most well-thought-out, planned-out, and executed concept records I've ever been a part of. Today I'm going to talk to the brain behind Forgive Durden, Thomas Dutton. You'll get to hear where his inspiration came from in creating the world of Wonderland, his interesting song titles, and what he's been up to lately. You can look forward to part 2 of the Forgive Durden podcast, where we go in-depth talking about their second record, Razia's Shadow. That episode of the Casey Bates podcast will be released in a few weeks. You can find Thomas on Instagram with @BeatrixKiddo with a 0 instead of an O, and Twitter with @ThomasDuddy. You can always find me and info about my podcast on Twitter or Instagram with @CaseyBates. Enjoy the show.
I've got shovels for my hands, anchors for my legs, wings jut out my shoulder blades. I can go anywhere. I can't go anywhere.
Well, you and I have a long, storied history.
Oh, okay.
Where do you want to start?
Do you want to start with that? How we met? No, is that too much?
How did we meet?
The band Surrounded by Lions, who...
They're like the reason. That's crazy. Daphne's the same thing. They sit surrounded by lions, and this Providence sits surrounded by lions.
Really?
Yeah.
But they got to you through Gatsby's, right?
Yeah.
Because they had played some shows with them, or... I don't even really know how they met.
That's a good question.
I mean, I know they played some shows with them, but I didn't know if they, met before that or what.
Well, Bobby and I worked on their songs together, I believe. They're very Gatsby sounding.
At the time, yeah.
Yeah. And then you liked their recording?
Yeah, I mean, we just did it was like what the cooler people were doing.
You wanted to be that cooler person.
Exactly. Like, oh God, this is what you gotta do. Gotta record with this guy in his creepy attic.
We didn't record you in my attic. We recorded you in my rec room, didn't we?
We did the drums down in your TV room, but we did the guitars and everything up.
We actually did drums at my rental house
on 135th or whatever.
Did we really?
Yeah, just in the main room there, I think.
I don't remember that.
And then you had like a guitar cab in your bedroom, in that the ceiling is like 4 feet high.
Yeah.
And you did guitars out in the main control room or whatever. We got put in touch with you through Surrounded by Lions, and I think we came in with a few songs, and it was amazing for us.
And terrible for me.
I think you had to do a lot of fixing.
No, that's
things.
my famous story is you almost made me quit.
Right.
You were so bad.
Made you realize what it was going to take.
Made me realize what my work days were going to be like from that point forward. Did those songs does anyone ever heard those songs? Have those ever seen the light of day?
Yeah. I mean, we released them.
So you actually had an official EP. Let me consult Wikipedia here because I don't remember.
Yeah, so those were before that EP. We had a few songs, and then we came back in.
That's the Bandages and Royalty EP?
Yeah,
what we're talking about right now?
Yes.
And then we did the When You're Alone, You're Not Alone EP.
Right. And the Bandages and Royal EP wasn't like, I think we came in and we did like 2 songs, and we came back and did like another 2 songs or something. Like, it was kind of pieced together.
Yeah, and you were really figuring it out too, because it was terrible, and then it was not so bad, and then it was still bad, but
and we
better.
were changing members a little bit at the time too. And
was Andy drumming for you the whole time?
Yeah, Andy was drumming, but
and Jesse playing bass?
No, that was before Jesse.
Because you played bass.
Yeah, because Clay, who was our bass player. None of this is important, but
I'm just gonna edit all this out. We're just getting warmed up.
Yeah. So yeah, then we came back in and did the When You're Not Alone, You're Alone EP, which is a reference to, do you know?
Tell me.
Hook.
Really?
Yeah, she sings, the little girl sings When You're
I don't think I've
Alone,
ever seen that movie.
What? Oh man.
Is it good? Does it hold up?
Great. I think that maybe some of the action stuff would be pretty hokey, but like...
That's Spielberg, right?
Yeah.
But that's supposed to be like his worst movie.
Is it?
I don't know.
Isn't his worst movie like Jack or something?
That's not Spielberg.
Are you sure?
Isn't that Francis Ford Coppola?
Oh, maybe it's somebody very
It's someone like really. It's like they did a kids movie.
Yeah, so we did that EP, which I think we did in maybe 3 batches.
And that EP's not bad.
And I thought it was pretty cool. It was definitely the best thing we had done by far.
Everything you did at every time
Every
you
new
recorded
thing,
was the
yeah.
best thing you did. No, I was just on the Stage Banter podcast, and the guy or the host is a huge fan of you guys, and I don't know if huge, but he's a fan, and he's very familiar with that EP because we talked about it, and I was like, wait,
Really?
I thought he was talking about like the stuff that led into Wonderland, but he's like, no, that EP, and I was like, oh, I had no idea anyone heard that.
Yeah, there was a few really good songs. The acoustic song was still like a lot of my friends that were kind of supportive of what I was doing at the time. They still like love that. The last track, I'm a Sucker for Fakes, because especially they know the girl that it was about, and so they'll be like at a show and shouting out, "Play I'm a Sucker for Fakes."
I'll classify every word out of your lips as a lie until you're lying beneath the dirt and the soil, held as the king of deceivers and cheats. You've got a lot to learn.
It says here we did that EP August 23rd, 2004.
That's when it was released, maybe.
It has to be, because I was like, that's an oddly specific date.
That acoustic song, I remember it was your idea to do doubled vocals on it. And you're like, yeah, like Elliott Smith. And I was like, who's that? Like, you don't know who Elliott Smith is? I was like, nope.
I don't think I ever listened to Elliott Smith either. I was just trying to sound real cool.
You're like, yes, somebody else doesn't know who he is.
Okay, so that gets released in August 2004, and then so there's a big gap between releasing that EP and it says Wonderland gets released May 9th of 2006.
Yeah, so we went and like toured. So that's when we had...
You toured on the EP?
Yeah, so we got Jesse joined as the bass player that I met in college. And then he had a friend, Thomas Hunter, who was going to USC for jazz guitar. And our guitar player at the time was still in high school, and we were all in college. And so we kind of all told our parents, like, we want to try to make this work. Like, we want to leave school and start touring. Like, give us a year to kind of make this work. And if we get signed, we did it. If we don't get signed, then we'll go back to school. We decide to start touring. We go down to California, meet Thomas Hunter. He leaves also, and we start playing together. Actually, me and him down in California, because up to that point I had been writing everything just myself, music and lyrics and everything, but he was and still is, a much better guitar player than me. And so it was this amazing addition to the songwriting process to have somebody that was so much more fluent in guitar than I was. And so we actually started writing the first song together down in LA in his apartment, and which ended up becoming Ear to Ear, the third song on the record on Wonderland, which is kind of why that song, we can talk about more when we get to that song, but that song's kind of crazy and just there's a lot going on, and it's because we sort of had this guitar player, this amazing guitar player at our disposal. So it was just kind of like, yeah, more.
Yeah.
Like, keep at it, keep doing crazy stuff. And so that's part of the reason that song's a little nuts. But so then, yeah, we toured for a bit on that EP and just kind of up and down like the West Coast and with other kind of unsigned bands.
Yeah, it couldn't have been like a major tour.
No. It was just like, a week here, 2 weeks there. But we did it quite a bit with other bands that were kind of in similar situations to us, trying to get signed at that like good, not great kind of level. And Thomas and I started writing together more, and we wrote a few. I think we wrote, so we had Ear to Ear, we wrote Jub Jub, and we wrote The Great Affair Is to Move.
Right.
At that point, I think we came back in with you, or you sort of...
And during this time is when like This Providence gets signed and records, and Daphne Loves Derby gets signed and records, and you're kind of like the last band. Well, yeah. You're one of the last bands that I'd been working with at the time that I hadn't gotten some sort of deal or whatever.
Right.
And
we really sort of expected, I think, to get signed off of the EP. We did, because that's kind of what everybody else had happened with everybody else. It's like you go do like a solid EP with Casey Bates, and you'll get signed to, what are they called? Rocket Star, whatever.
Didn't really work out that way.
They sort of passed on us. I think you took it to them, and they sort of were like, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never met them. I think
we took it to a few. I mean, did you get any label interest from the EP?
No. I mean, not that I remember. I don't know. I'm getting it confused in my mind with maybe other. No, I mean, actually, no, I do remember a time that we sent it out to like everybody. And I remember we did get one like physical letter back in the mail. I think from like Lobster Records. Is that a record?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And it was like a form letter that was like, we're not interested in this time. But he'd also written a note like, these sound good, but we're just not signing right now. Like, keep us in the loop kind of thing. So that was...
I vaguely remember something like that, yeah.
That felt sort of nice to get something personal, at least.
I think it was my idea to have you come in to do 2 songs.
Yeah, I think you said like,
And it was free, right? Like I was just like, let's record these songs.
I think so.
I don't think I charged you. And
I don't remember paying you.
Well, because I liked the EP, and I think it was a thing where I was... Like I hit you up and I was like, "Hey, do you have new songs? And let me hear them." And then you kind of sent me some demos of those songs, and I liked them. And I was like, "Okay, let's come in. We'll do 2 songs for free, and I'll try to get you a deal."
Yeah, because you had just done.
I think I did just
Lost Monsters, and so you had the relationship
with Johnny Minardi.
With Johnny, who is now at Fueled by Ramen.
Because Johnny is in every podcast I'm doing. He's like this link to everything.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think, I remember we recorded a few songs. We just like put a room mic in our practice space and just recorded a few songs and send them to you. And I think you kind of saw something there, I guess. And yeah, so we came in and I think we did all 3, but you sort of said Ear to Ear is a little much. Maybe let's just focus on these 2.
Did we do 3?
I think, or at least I think we at least started 3, but maybe we didn't finish Ear to Ear.
That sounds familiar.
And
because we did Jub Jub and we did The Great Affairs to Move.
Yeah.
And
which are different, but I think they both kind of showcase what really, the Wonderland version of Forgive Durden, at least, really the essence of that. It was like versatile. Both those songs had these weird, like secondary songs as like the little button on the end.
Yeah, they're like that verse, chorus, then like
whole other
outro thing.
Whole different part. And so they both had that interesting thing going on, but they still also had like some bite. So, it ended up being a really good representation of what was to come. And
this is right around the time My Chemical Romance was huge. They had their 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge record.
Okay.
And I'm saying that because that was like the big influence on me production-wise for the record. Yeah, you remember this.
I don't remember that. It wasn't the Black Parade. It was the first one. Or not the first one, but 3 Cheers.
Yeah, the one with Helena on it.
Yeah, okay.
It was their huge...
Oh, yeah, okay.
It was their huge record. And
is that where we kind of got the gang vocal-y thing?
Well, for me, it was... Everyone I remember talking to didn't like how that record sounded, the My Chemical Romance record, because it's very dry and the drums don't sound all that good. But I there's something about it that I really latched onto. Maybe it's because the songs were like the biggest songs in the world at the time. But I really liked how just kind of raw and... kind of shitty it sounded, but still clear and you could hear everything. And so my whole thing with you guys was when you came in, I wanted it, that was going to be kind of my version of that. Like there's no reverb on hardly anything on Wonderland.
Yeah, it's very dry.
Your vocals are dry most of the time and the drums are dry. They're just like that room that they were in. And
I know, I feel, just listening back to the record, I feel like scared a little bit, like
it's so intimate.
It's very like everything feels very vulnerable because it's like you're not hiding behind. The reverb is such a good cloak for everything. You put reverb on anything, it just sounds better. It covers up mistakes, everything. So when you have none of it, at least as like someone who makes music, it feels very like the.
But I like it.
Oh, I know it puts the music in a very vulnerable place because it's like, whoa, I can hear everything, I can see everything. It's.
I still like Wonderland is one of my favorite productions I've ever done.
Do you think that's like a lightning in a bottle kind of thing, or do you think that you could recreate that with anything you wanted to do?
Oh, it's all I could easily do it. Oh. It's not nothing to do with you guys.
Special.
No, it was just
the way it fit with the songs and everything.
It's one of those things where because I was doing it for free, I felt like I had full control over how I wanted it to sound. Whereas most of the time, I'm very like accommodating with bands, and I'm like, let's do your vision and my vision. We'll try to get the production the way I want it to be. And there's been a handful of records I've done where I've more or less been just paying for it myself. And so I'm like, I'm going to do it how I want to do it. And that's how I'm
going to do me.
Yeah. Like the Money Pit record I just did is like very much just like, that's the direction I wanted to go with it. It's
Wonderland wasn't free though.
Well,
the first 2 songs are free.
We'll get to it. It's
it was
basically
very cheap,
free. Well, no, but the first 2 songs set the template for how the rest of the record was going to sound, because those are the songs we sent to the label.
Right.
But I immediately was like, I don't want any reverb on this thing. I want it to be all real drums. It's all real instruments. very much just like you guys playing in a room, but I still think it sounds awesome. It's like punchy and big sounding. So we did these 2 songs, and I had one plan only, and that was to give them to Johnny Minardi, who worked at Fuel by Ramen then, and say, how cheap do I have to do this record for you guys to sign Forgive Durden and pick it up so we do the record?
It was like an offer they can't refuse, because it's like...
I mean, they could. But
I know,
they
but
like,
for
they
how
liked the
cheap
songs.
it was a very low risk.
I want to say $3,000
I
maybe.
think that's what it was, $3,000 for a full length, which is ridiculous for anybody that is aware of record budgets, especially...
And I was doing well at the time. I mean, like I was doing a lot of work, but
Yeah.
I really believed in you guys. I really wanted that record to get made.
Yeah, I remember John Janik, the co-founder of Fuel by Ramen, called me up one day, or we had maybe talked to Johnny a few times, and then
They hadn't seen you live.
hadn't seen us live because they're in Florida. We were in Seattle.
They hadn't seen... all they knew was the songs, right?
Yeah, all they knew was those 2 songs. I think maybe we sent them the prior EP too. But yeah, they're really excited about it, and we had the idea of like kind of the concept record and the whole Wonderland thing, and so Janik was excited about that from like a marketing standpoint, that there was kind of like this story to tell and the unfolding, and
You had your ducks in a row, like when he called, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
You are like, all right, I gotta...
sell him on this.
Didn't you have to film yourselves playing live and send it to him?
Yeah, so we after they showed interest and everything, we were still in the midst of doing like those little kind of 1 week, 2 week long little tours with other unsigned bands, and we had one coming up, and so they said normally we really like to see the bands we sign play live, but like since you don't have plans to come to Florida and we're not going to fly out to Seattle, I guess I don't know why they wouldn't have done that, but
Yeah.
They said, why don't you just film one of your shows and send it to us? Like we just want to make sure everything is good. Like,
There's an actual band
yeah,
there.
we just want to make sure it's there. Like we want to sign you, we just have to make sure that it's good to go. So we were playing Salt Lake City when we found out about this, and so our friend Caitlin, who happened to live there, she was going to college in Salt Lake, she came. I swear it was like the kind of camcorder like where you stick the whole VHS in it,
Yeah.
and it just records right to that. And I mean, I swear there was like 8 people there. The stage was like 6 inches off the ground. It was like a horrible basement show, which maybe I guess was fine for what we were or whatever, but it was not something that the audio is just whatever the camera's picking up.
If you would have
like
been in
just-
Seattle, you would have had every friend show up.
yeah, it would have
like
been
a-
packed. It would have been this
Yeah.
whole thing. It would look like we were like little local gods or
Yeah.
something, as opposed to we were just playing to nobody. And we send in this VHS, and sure enough, I don't even know if they watched it or what, but yeah, I mean, we got signed. And actually, Johnny kept the VHS and sent it back to me.
Really?
I haven't watched it because I haven't been able to find a VCR, but I'm really curious to see it actually. Then we sent it in, got signed and everything, and came back. And I think then we
Was it a 2-record deal?
I think it was a 3-record deal. We came back, and then I think we recorded with you around like October, because the record came out in May. So I think I remember it being like October time of year.
Late time of the year.
Yeah.
So it would have been October 05.
Yep. Came in and did the record, and we had it pretty much all written. I mean, we had been writing a bit on the road, and
You're kind of a freak when it comes to planning and making
yeah,
sure.
I like to. I mean, we'll talk about it in Razia's, but I had like a big chart with all of it checked off, and so I think we had most of it written. The last song we did for the record was "For a Dreamer," "Night's the Only Time of Day," and that was one that we sort of wrote. I think that's the only one we sort of wrote after we had started recording, because we felt like there was something missing. But I think everything else we sort of came in with, and obviously we made adjustments and changed stuff up. But I think we pretty much were there. We didn't have any it's not like we had 40 songs and we ended up with 10. Like we had 12.
These are the
and
songs. Yeah,
that's all we had.
I remember going to a practice just ahead of the record, and I played you guys Bleed American in the first song on that record, Jimmy Eat World, and I said, make a song like this for the first song on the record.
Yeah, with the downbeat on the snare thing.
Yeah, do you remember? Because I was like, we need the song to kick off rockin'.
The record.
Yes,
Yeah.
the record. And I was like, make a song like this. And I think maybe Ants was something that you've been working on or whatever, but you I remember you making Ants for the beat to be the first song on the record.
Okay. Yeah, I can't, when I think about Ants, I can't remember, like most of the songs I can think like, oh, there was this song that we sort of liked or this vibe that we were trying to go for. And I can't really remember that for some reason with Ants. So that sounds like it was probably what you're saying.
Yeah, we'll just go with what I say.
Okay, so...
should we get into the record?
Yeah, so Wonderland is a concept record where there's one story being told over the course of the whole record.
Did you plan that out, like when we were recording those 3 songs initially, or was this something that you kind of came back around to after that and was like, let's make this a concept record so we can sell it to the label as this big grand idea?
Yeah, I think it was a mix. So I'll explain it this way. So it's one story that takes place, but there's 1, 2, 3. There's 4, or no, actually there's 5 characters. There's 5 characters, and so they, you hear my voice singing first person on every song, but I'm singing from different characters' point of views depending on the song. And so one of the characters is sort of me, and that's the character that you hear singing on the Great Affairs to Move. So I might not have had this full grand scheme of like a 5-character concept album when we wrote Great Affairs to Move, because it's just I was singing it from my perspective. But and then Jub Jub is the point of view of the girl in the story, and and I think I don't remember how deeply I thought about a whole concept thing. But then once we had those 2 songs, it kind of felt like, oh, you know what, we could continue going with this and have these different perspectives on like even the same events and stuff.
This is a lot more similar to Razia's Shadow than I thought.
Really?
I remember it being.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a big part of Razia's, for me, getting the different singers was that it was a response to nobody having a fucking clue that there was multiple characters on Wonderland, because it's hard to know because it...
This is probably going to come as a shock to...
Yeah,
I mean, not a shock.
The lyrics are kind of cryptic. They're not like hitting the nail on the head, and... it's one voice you're hearing doing all these characters, so there's nothing to tell you really that's happening. You'd have to really kind of dive into the artwork. We tried to do it a little bit with the artwork. Yeah, there was kind of a response to that with Razia's, was to say, okay, well this time we're gonna actually get different singers, so that like they're different characters. So Ants. So to go back to Ants. Ants is Wonderland is basically bookended with this kind of god character. The person who created Wonderland, created the world that this story's taking place. And he's super frustrated with the way that his creation is being treated. And so he's kind of standing up on a cloud, however you picture that happening. And he's looking down at the world and seeing all these people, and they look like little ants. And he's just, really bummed out at how they're like wasting this beautiful creation that he gave them. Yeah, at the end of the song, he even, he says, with my Titan feet, I could end it with just one step. So he's talking about just destroying it and kind of starting over. He's talking
That's
about
cool.
Stepping on the ants. You can't dodge agony if all 10 tons of it comes stomping down on you at once, like a bullet to the brain. Then the last line of the song is, from my monster height, a healthy walk I contemplate. So he's like, I'm just going to go take a walk and smash all these fools.
That's awesome.
So he's basically debating whether or not to destroy the world that he's created. And so that's how the record starts. Nice uplifting message.
With my Titan feet, I couldn't do it just one step. You cannot dodge agony if all 10 tons of it come stomping down on you at once like a bullet to the brain. From my monster height, a healthy walk I contemplate.
I guess we should have talked about it before we dive into the record, but like, are you proud of this record? Is this something that you're still like, what are your thoughts on the record 10 years later?
Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, I think that the sound of it is really cool. Like to go back to the dryness and the rawness of it is something really cool that, man, it's like I said, it kind of scares me. Like if I had these exact same songs now, I would be like, no, what are you talking about? We have to put more reverb on this. There has to be, it would need to be more kind of cloaked in, shrouded in mystery or whatever. And so the fact that it just feels ballsy, I guess, and it feels cool in that way. I guess the biggest thing I would change if I went back is I would be a little simpler, like with lyrics and stuff. I think I was just kind of being too clever for my own good, and I was like, look what I was doing, like, lyrical tricks and like being like, look how clever I am with my lyrics and stuff like that. And so, I mean, I like parts of it, but some of it's just it's just too much, and it takes away from the story because it makes it too cryptic, and it also,
You have to be a real big fan of this record to really understand what's going on.
yeah. And I think that there's also parts in it where it kind of actually not ruins, but takes away from the melody when like you're really forcing a word into a melody that like shouldn't be there. It's like sometimes you come up with a really good melody, and there's certain words that just sound better on that melody, and it's like I didn't take that into consideration at all. I was like, no, this, whatever word, like some crazy long word, like I'm trying to find a long word I have in here. I don't even know, constellation, like this has to fit here even if it shouldn't, and so
That's interesting. Because you're more focused on the story and telling this grand,
and using clever metaphors and similes and imagery and stuff like that. I was really, really into. And if I would go back now, I would still want to do those things, but I just wouldn't. I just did it too much.
Pick your moments.
Yeah, exactly.
I would agree. I mean, I love the record and I get it, but yeah, you got to imagine that it might have reached a larger audience had it made a little bit more sense to just a casual listener.
Totally.
If I remember right, the intro of that song originally was guitar.
Yeah.
And because you hear it in the middle of the song.
You hear it in the bridge or whatever.
Yeah,
breakdown.
and it bared a very striking resemblance to Gatsby's American Dream's first song on Ribbons and Sugar.
Right.
But I liked the riff, and I was like, well, let's do it with the bass guitar.
Yeah.
And someone really good played that bass intro.
Did you play it?
Yeah. You don't remember that?
I guess I remember. Did we all kind of try it? And you were like, it's
everyone,
not right.
everyone tried it a million times, and we just had, because I think we had the guitar on there for a while, and I was like, man, someone pointed it out. They're like, that sounds just like Gatsby's. Oh, I guess it totally does. It's like we tried to change it to a bass, put some distortion on it, which sounds cool. And I think we had everyone tried it, and I just was the one that could nail it.
Just nail it. It has that nice little bend right at the very end.
Yeah.
Before the drums come in, where it just kind of gets slightly out of tune, which is cool.
That was another thing. And when that riff comes back in the song later, it's played really sloppy.
So sloppy.
But that was on purpose.
Yeah.
I was like, and there's a lot of things in this record that were guitar-wise, especially, are just like, no, let it go. Like, let's just make it sound like you guys are playing these songs, even if it makes you sound like you're not very good at what you do.
Yeah, and now that's like, I feel like that's back. That's cool.
No, it totally
again.
is. I think it's one of the reasons why this record for me stands up, because I didn't like trigger everything. I didn't auto-tune everything. It just sounds like a rock record. Just it feels like it holds up a lot better than a lot of the records I did at that time.
And even the little synth right when the vocals come in on Ants is a little like Casio.
Yeah.
That you had that we like held up to the vocal mic. I remember.
Oh yeah,
Thomas is like king, king, king.
Yeah.
And it sounds so dinky.
All the keys on this record were very just like basic,
just kind of whatever we
cheesy things, but we're just like scroll through samples or keyboards and just let's put that on there. Ants is a fantastic way to start the record. That song gets me pumped every time I hear it.
So Brian Schechter was our manager that we got after the record came out, I think, or no, I guess maybe right before it came out, we kind of got hooked up with him, and he managed Circa Survive and My Chemical Romance, and so we were so excited to be working with him, and that he liked our band and everything. And I remember he said about Ants that, he was like, there's something to Ants that's like, it reminds me so much of like the first time I heard Anthony Green sing. It reminds me of like something about from My Chem, or like, just like that there's like that it quality, kind of like that je ne sais quoi, like you can't put your finger on it, but there's just something special about it. And he was like, everything you do should be like Ants from now on. Every new thing, you should be trying to catch more of that like lightning in a bottle that you had with Ants, because that was like that song. Just like the energy, Anyways, it was a nice compliment I thought about Ants. So.
That's cool. Anyway, Beware the Jub Jub Bird and the Shunt. Wait. Dude, that's a tough title to say.
I can't read.
Beware the Jub Jub Bird and Shun the Frumious Bandersnatch.
That's it. You got it.
That was an interesting title.
So that's a reference to Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll, and Through the Looking Glass. And it's like a poem that's being read to Alice, telling her to kind of be careful and watch out. And since we were calling the record Wonderland, and this song specifically was about the girl in the story. It seemed like kind of a fitting thing. And it was just a cool, like, long titles were kind of cool then, and it was just such a crazy.
There's a few of them on this record.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the point of view of the girl in the story, and so like the lyrics, like she exits her gold chariot. That's like she's in a taxi cab. She's getting out of a yellow cab.
Nice.
So it's like that. It's like instead of saying yellow cab, I would say gold chariot.
And so no one has any idea what you're talking
Right,
about.
exactly. And she's like, the song's kind of about, like, she's playing the role that sort of she thinks she's supposed to play, where she's supposed to get all dolled up and she's supposed to go out on the town and she's supposed to be this, like, object of affection, basically, for everybody. But then, the song has a real, like, kind of dark, the riff,
Yeah.
bum, bum, ba-da-da-da-da. Which, by the way, that was really a inspired by
Justin Timberlake,
Cry Me
Yeah.
River, which is da 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 da, and I was just da 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 da. So it's just like that little scale up and down. I mean, it's just a scale, but yeah, we loved kind of like the creepiness of the riff in Cry Me River, and so we were trying to. I mean, it doesn't sound like Cry Me River, but you can see the similarity as well.
Yeah.
You were my sun, you were my earth. You didn't know all the ways I loved you. No.
So it has like that real sinister quality to it, and then it has this really sad little outro where she is basically talking about how she's lonely and she doesn't have a wedding ring. She's talking about the finger being her finger being naked and all this stuff, and just ultimately being lonely and that not being a fulfilling thing, which also references the chorus. She wants to sink her teeth into, and like, but ultimately it's this hollow meal. It's this unsatisfying meal, and so she's at the end of the night, you're still alone and all this. So
How does it play into the larger theme of the record? Like, she's just supposed to be a person that lives in Wonderland, and it's kind of like the life of this person.
yeah, so I guess it'd be good to give an overview. So there's my character, who is sort of the character that I guess I relate to the most, is this guy who's been in the city of Wonderland, but he's like a detractor from it. Wonderland is like, it's supposed to be this great place and everything, but he's like seeing the flaws, and he's seeing like the true colors of the city, and that it's this kind of bloodthirsty, sort of money hungry place. Okay, so we tried to have these like connections. So in Jub Jub, I say she exits her gold chariot. So she's getting out of her taxi cab, right? And then for A Dreamer, Night's the Only Time of Day, this is back from my character's point of view. And I'm like walking down the street, these really busy streets, and and it says, until an abrupt blonde door stowing a porcelain blonde girl knocks me right onto my back. So she opens the cab door that's in Jub Jub and
Oh, I didn't know this. That's
knocks
crazy.
me over. And so that's kind of like,
How could I?
exactly. You can't read, so how could you? Yeah, so that's kind of like when we meet, or when I first see her, and basically I'm trying to get out of Wonderland with her. I'm trying to like save her from this dark place that I know is like not good for either of us. And so we're trying to get out of Wonderland, basically. Then there's kind of like in the simplest terms, kind of like a evil Wall Street banker kind of guy, who the Tango song is from his perspective. And so the fifth is the like the boss, like the Wall Street kind of like boss guy, which is supposed to kind of represent the young flashy guy in 40 years or whatever. Like what happens if you stay in Wonderland. It might seem all great and flashy and Wolf of Wall Street and everything, but his song is the Harry Frazee one, which is he's like depressed and empty and lonely and all this stuff. So the basic story of Wonderland is that we're just trying to get out of Wonderland, but we also find out by the end that you can leave Wonderland physically, but you can't like really ever get away from the things that it represents, and you go over to this other city over here and it is still Wonderland. And this city over here is still Wonderland. And it's not about like the physical place. It's more about like the state of mind, I guess, and just how you are going to live your life and your values. And that was kind of supposed to be the whole message told through this. Really, there's not a lot actually that happens in the story. It's more just about these people's, their kind of like thoughts about the city and their beliefs and the things that they like and don't like about the city is really how the story's told. But the only action that really takes place is me and the girl meeting after she's kind of had this, she's had a night with this guy who's like the flashy banker, and then me and her meet and basically get out of the city. The old depressed boss banker guy is super depressed and kills himself, and then the God character destroys everything.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, man, we're not there yet.
That's the basic story. So
so still on Jub Jub.
So yeah, back to Jub Jub. She's out for a night on the town, but then, at the end of the night kind of thing, it's like that Sunday night blues where you just feel empty and lonely still.
Are you writing these songs like a story, or are you pulling real inspiration from these songs to help write the songs? It
was an interesting time in my life because I was really wanting to pursue music, but I was going to college at University of Washington. So I was like a freshman in college and surrounded by all these guys who were super confident, super motivated, ambitious dudes that are all going to be going to, school of business and going to be running companies in however long, and like surrounded by that. And I'm working at Nordstrom in downtown Seattle. I was like a stockroom boy. And I'm taking the Metro bus from University of Washington downtown to downtown Seattle to go to work. And so I'm surrounded by all these young, kind of flashy, ambitious business dudes. I'm riding the bus with older business dudes and also, people who are not, people, all you see everybody on the bus, you see all walks of life on the bus. So just seeing the diversity and seeing how easy it is, I think, to kind of be in a bubble if you want to be. And then but then me wanting to go in this completely different direction of like wanting to go be a musician that tours and it doesn't even really need a college degree in terms of helping my career. And so it was just a weird thing where there was like all these just very different life paths happening around me from...
You could see it from almost beginning to end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, I'd see these guys like reading the Wall Street Journal with their Blackberries like on the bus or whatever, and just being like, man, it's so interesting that like that's, because for me, I just would imagine myself in their shoes and just feel so unfulfilled. Like, yeah, maybe I have a Porsche, but I like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
Like, am I happy? Does this make me happy? And so, it was really like affirmation for me as a musician, really, to be like, I need to get the hell out of here. I need to go be a musician, not be working at Nordstrom and going to school with a bunch of business guys and stuff. So yeah, so that was really the inspiration, and I think really the inspiration for it being told from different points of view, because I was seeing kind of the different characters sort of come to life. And so I was trying to kind of sympathize with, to each their own, and whatever makes you happy. But I was also, for the sake of storytelling, trying to really simplify and even kind of, demonize the things that weren't going to make, that weren't in line with what was going to make me happy, which was sort of like following my dreams, whether or not that brought me money or not. And so, yeah, I think that's really kind of what led to a lot of the different points of view on the record and the different characters, because I wanted to show you what it's like to be the flashy young businessman, and I wanted to show you what it was like to be the girl who thinks that wants that, but ultimately isn't satisfied and all that. So
it's been 10 years. Do you feel the same way, or is it more of, would you not quite go so hard on the concept at this point, or?
It's a good question. I mean, I think I definitely still agree with it. I mean, because
you're still doing music.
I'm still doing music. I mean, I have friends, great friends that are in business, that work on Wall Street, that are, the things that I sort of am against, so to speak, on Wonderland. And I have no problem with them doing that if it makes them happy and if that's what fulfills them. Again, it's just, it's about that, like whatever makes you happy. And for me, that wouldn't make me happy, and it wouldn't be fulfilling whatsoever. And it's just about, I think, following your dream. And even if it's something that seems crazy and seems like a long shot, and that's kind of what I've always really been drawn to, is that message.
We recorded that with the first batch of 3 songs, ear to ear.
We definitely had like a demo. I remember maybe we just showed you the demo and you said, maybe
you had 3 and we just picked 2 because that's all. That's I think what happened.
Yeah, I'll try and dig up the demo and we can play it quickly.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, so Ear to Ear, like I said earlier, was the first song really that Thomas and I started working on. So it just had all these really great little riffs and mandolins and counter riffs and all this stuff happening. And we were just we had a pretty wild imagination musically. Like, let's bring horns in and let's do it. I think
they're real horns.
Yeah, they're real horns. They weren't the best players.
It was so bad.
We found like University of Washington marching band musicians, which I didn't really know this, and please, no offense to anybody who is a talented marching band musician, but I just thought that if you were in a college marching band that you were like an amazing musician.
Yeah.
And I think it's more that like you were a passionate musician who wanted to be involved and wanted to play and stuff like that, but you weren't like this technically, in a marching band, you're just blasting and blaring. And
well, there's also the side of, they're probably used to reading sheet music, right? And
we gave him sheet music.
We did.
Yeah. Thomas, was a music major, and so he wrote out the sheet music for them.
Maybe it's too rock and roll a little bit.
I think it was just, I don't know. I think it was just in a marching band, like I said, in a marching band, you're blasting, blaring, and you're all playing together. And it's like, one person slightly out of tune, it just kind of blends into the rub of everything. Whereas when you're just being recorded on your own, it's a whole different thing. I mean, you've seen it with bands where it's like they seem like great drummers, great guitar players, but when you put them by themselves in front of a mic, all of a sudden, like, they just deteriorate into a shell of what they were. It's just it's a weird thing. It can be intimidating. It can be intimidating to record. So yeah, we did a bunch. I think we had like a sax player and a trumpet player, and I also I don't know if it was on this, but I mean, I played trumpet in middle school, and so I think I definitely played on Razia's. I can't remember if I played on this on Wonderland at all, but we just layered it a bunch and
tuned it. I remember that.
Did you tune it?
Yeah. Oh. We had to go through, and it was a process getting. It was really surprising. Yeah, we like got them up there, like, okay, let's record. I was like expecting just magic.
Gold. Yeah,
and it was like, whoa, they can't. I'm having a hard time just keeping it in tune and hitting and playing in time.
It's a big thing with band and orchestra recordings is that they sort of need to be together, because like they play, like if you went and recorded even the best string players in the world, I mean, okay, maybe not in the world, but if you went and recorded a group of string players together, like they kind of blend in tune
feed
together.
Off each other.
Whereas if you went and recorded them all separately and you got the best takes and then put those together, it would just sound totally out of whack in the tuning. And it's like they have to kind of meld together. So anyway, continue what you were saying.
That makes sense. I was just going to say that I think that experience is going to come into play later when we decide to do Razia's Shadow. Just having that, and then a similar experience as we were experimenting for Razia's Shadow, but that'll be down the line here.
Yeah.
Ear to Ear, yeah.
So Ear to Ear, yeah. So it was the first song we worked on, and it's a reference to the movie Boiler Room, when Ben Affleck character says, "Look at the fucking smile on my face."
You are the future big swinging dicks of this firm. Now y'all look money hungry, and that's good. Anybody tells you money's the root of all evil doesn't fucking have any. They say money can't buy happiness. Look at the fucking smile on my face. Ear to ear, baby.
Which I just thought was such a great line, and such it epitomized what I was kind of aiming at in terms of like the young, flashy, confident business guy who's just super money hungry and like just doesn't give a fuck and just wants to make a shitload of money. So this song is kind of told from that perspective, from the young and flashy business guy's perspective, but it's kind of told tongue-in-cheek too. Like the chorus is, "My destiny..."
Just trying to make it even more complicated.
Exactly.
To the listener.
I mean, I'm putting my filter on top of it.
Yeah.
I'm my commentary on top of it. So it's like the chorus is, "My destiny wasn't written in the stars. It's been meticulously planned and presented in a chart, a flawless design to truly satisfy. You want results, look at the fucking smile on my face. And so it was all about like, it's not about following your dreams. It's about like planning it all out and having this like, equation for success and for making the most money possible. And it's just a hollow trunk. It's only full of emptiness and empty nests. That was your idea, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
That's probably the best line on the record.
Because I say it's only full of emptiness, and but we were talking about a tree being full of emptiness, and you're like, are you saying empty nests or emptiness? And I was like, emptiness. And you said, well, what if you you said emptiness once, but then like the repeat says empty nests.
Yeah.
Like the little callback part.
In the background.
Yeah.
Like yeah. I remember that. And it's super in that you can barely hear what it's like so quiet in the background.
It's so quiet in the background.
Hollow trunk, it's only full of emptiness. Save the biggest.
And it's had all these this cool imagery of like a tailor too, like a savvy business guy getting his inseam measured, but in some fancy tailor shop while he's like, on the phone being like, sell,
yeah.
whatever. Like that's kind of the thing. And so yeah, that's kind of what that song's about. I remember though, because this was one of the first songs, like I remember playing a show at Ground Zero, that little teen center in downtown Bellevue, that would be like completely sold out with like 30 people in it.
Yeah.
Which was that's like where we kind of came up. And, like our little fan base here loved the EP, the prior EP. And since Ear to Ear was one of the first songs we wrote, it was one of the first songs we got to debut live and play for everybody. And so I remember feeling very like excited / nervous to like play this song for everybody. And I'm sure it just sounded like the recording is like a crazy mess of a song. So you can imagine like these 19-year-old kids playing it who aren't that great at their instruments, that I'm sure it was just nuts. And like I think Thomas had like the little mandolin for the verse on top of the guitar, and we didn't have horns obviously, but I just remember feeling so thrilled that we got to play it live and that people seemed to like kind of like it, and especially getting to sing that "look at the fucking smile on my face" line. It felt like a very, very cool song. All right, next one. So we really wanted this. We were really into Bright Eyes, and we really wanted a song that kind of had a Bright Eyes feel to it.
This is my first country song.
First and only.
Yeah.
So we really wanted to kind of like folksy, there's some mandolin and some
slide guitar
and all that kind of stuff. We really wanted the kind of Bright Eyes, like bowl of oranges feel to it. And I think that this is told kind of from my perspective, who, my character's sort of like waking up and smelling the roses, or waking up and smelling the rotting roses more accurately, and just kind of being like, this place is crazy, like it can't be real, but it doesn't seem.
How is not everyone else seeing what I'm seeing?
Yeah, that exactly. But then the end, he's convinced like this has to be a dream. This has to just be like a nightmare. That this can't be real. This place. And the song ends. I rub my eyes to find the whole time I thought I was in a slumber, they've been open wide. So he's like, oh shit, I've been awake this whole time. This is real. There's a medicine for every ill, and talking about people that are just taking pills instead of like addressing actual. That's interesting. Actual problems.
That's more today than it even was 10 years ago.
If the money's right, the pain can be drowned with a bitter pill, and all the women are paper thin, their necks barely hold up their heads and stuff. And just kind of, it was a lot of social commentary on people not facing their actual issues and working on themselves, and just kind of covering everything with Band-Aids and duct tape.
Why did we have the whole group bar setting at the end of the song?
It didn't have anything to do with the story or anything.
It was just it was the feel that we had.
Yeah, we just
going.
wanted the feel of that. I think we had come up with a little part, and it felt. I can't. I'm trying. It's
like Irish Barry or something.
Yeah,
right?
I want to say that we couldn't decide if we should go slow or fast. Like we kind of liked both of them, and then we were like, well, why don't we just try to do both?
That's not my mindset back then. I was like, let's just do it all.
Let's do both.
Yeah.
And so we sped it up, and then it just gets super slow. And then there's and then there's like the little outro part where he talks what I just said, where he realizes he's still awake, and we wanted it to sound like we're in almost like you stepped out of the bar, and so you can still hear all the bar noises in the background, but they kind of have like that underwater,
like they're coming from the next room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it was just you, me, and Jesse trying to do the bar noises, and so we're sitting in your control room, and we got like just coffee mugs or whatever, little glasses, and filled them up with some water. It was very, like, we weren't cool at all.
No.
It wasn't a real bar scene. And we were just clanking them together and saying,
And
like,
yelling,
like, "Ah, da, 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 da." And I remember, you can hear it, and I always hear it anytime I listen to the song, that because it's right when it gets to the quiet part outside, even though it's like muffled in the background, you can totally hear it because there's a bunch of layers that we did, so it sounds really full, but I'm trying to be like a drunk dude, and so I'm like, I love you, man. I just love you. And I'm like waiting for you to say it back, and you go, I hate you. And I hear it every time, and I'm like, fuck, man.
I hear it every time too, because it's like it's one spot where it just kind of pokes out.
Yeah.
Time for Il Tango della Signora Francesco di Bartolomeo di Zanobi del Giocondo.
Yep. That's it. Nailed it.
Have you ever live say this is the song we're playing
No.
and say that title?
No. So that's
Have
actually,
you ever said that? Wait.
That's the
Without
real
even
name.
reading it, can you read?
No.
Yeah, you don't
No
even know.
idea.
You don't even know your own title.
But watch, if I copy and paste this, Signora Francesca.
What, into Google Translator?
No, you know who's going to come up? This is the real name of Mona Lisa, the girl in the painting, Mona Lisa.
Oh, really?
Only tango lyric. There it is. Lisa del Giocondo, also known as Mona Lisa, because it was the name of her husband.
Oh, it's the name of her husband.
So it's like saying, Mrs. Casey Bates. So her husband's name was Francesco di Bartolomeo di Zanobi del Giocondo. Anyway, so this was the idea behind the Mona Lisa reference was that it was like this girl who was like the object, the picture perfect girl.
Is this the same girl from Jub Jub?
Yep, but this is told from the point of view from this song and the next song, A Dead Person Breathed on Me, are the same event, like a night out, like a night of intimacy between the young flashy businessman and the girl. So this is told from the young flashy businessman's point of view, where it's all just about sex, and it doesn't, there's no substance, there's no emotion, it's just like a physical thing. And then the next song is like this sad, lonely, kind of heartbroken love song.
That's interesting.
Anyway, we really wanted also to. I was really into Chicago the musical, and we really wanted to make a song that sounded like the Cell Block Tango. Actually, I don't know if we're going to out ourselves of ripping this thing off pretty blatantly, but. Hear it?
Oh, yeah.
Great song. So we wanted a song that just like felt totally outside of rock and roll in that sense, that it kind of had like a tango thing going on, and we would do it live too, where we had this crazy drum rack.
That's how you finished every set, wasn't it?
Yeah, we would finish every set where me, Jesse, and Thomas would all turn around and flip our guitars around and play this whole outro. So all four of us were playing drums and percussion and crazy stuff, and Jesse's going nuts on a cowbell and full Will Ferrell mode. And
I remember didn't we have a ton of different like Seattle guys come in and just do their little part on the song?
I think it was just Nico.
Was it really just one person?
I think it was just Nico. I mean, I think Andy did it, and then recorded like the main stuff, and I think I kind of did some stuff on it, just like whatever that we chopped up and moved around. And then Nico just came in, who was the drummer of Danger Radio, and just had really cool style with stuff like that. It'd be kind of similar to having like a Rudy or something come in,
right?
And we just let him go nuts on it. I think you just like looped it, or he just did it like 10 times, and then we just went through and found a bunch of cool stuff and kind of layered it on top.
It has a cool flow to it, like just for like a percussion thing. I'm really happy with how that thing comes out.
And
like
parts of it, he's like playing on like the table leg or like little just random metal stuff, and yeah, there was some cool stuff in there.
Dead Person breathed on me.
So that was like that song title is kind of funny in my mind because it's a reference to I think it's to National Lampoon's Vacation.
That's random.
The grandma we had like been watching it or something, and like I'd never seen it, I think, which is like surprise, is rare. I think most people have seen that movie, but I had never seen it. And they like realized the grandma had been dead for like quite a while in the car. And like the girl's freaking out that like she was sitting next to like this dead grandma. She's like, a dead person. It's a funny line in the movie. She's like, a dead person breathed on me.
She's not fine, Clark. She's dead. She breathed on me. A dead person breathed. Oh, her hand touched me. You stiff already. Oh.
But I thought it like for some reason worked really well for this because it's calling, in my mind, it was calling the flashy business guy like a dead person, somebody that didn't have like a soul or didn't have anything. And this was.
Does she realize that like during like after the night is over? Is that from her perspective or is that your perspective of?
Yeah, this is kind of the end of the night where I think she, maybe they slept together and he doesn't even spend the night. He just kind of goes home, and she kind of realizes like, oh shit, this happened again or whatever. I'm just alone. Like that wasn't what I was looking for. And she's been looking for, something to like break her out of this place, this funk and this feeling. And it's that wasn't it again.
Yeah.
Thomas had written just this really beautiful acoustic guitar little part, which is like the main little part of the song. And it was, I didn't have to even do anything. Like the melody is I'm just singing along with the melody of the guitar basically. But it was just kind of like this little hymn almost. It wasn't like a fully fledged song, but we just left it as like this, because it's like a minute long or a minute and a half or something. So we just left it as like this kind of almost like an interlude, intermission kind
It's
of
always felt
record.
that way to me, like the middle of the record.
Yeah, just kind of like a little breather. And yeah, it's a cool little thing. Like I still will play it from time to time because it's a very pretty little guitar part.
Which brings us to The Great Affair is to Move, which was the other half of the two songs that we did together for free that got you signed to Feel Better Ramen. But we redid some stuff. So as we're Jub Jub, I believe we kept all the music and vocals from the original demo sessions. Really? I'm almost positive. I remember with Jub Jub, we doubled the length of the last chorus.
Okay.
With this song, we redid all the guitars, I'm pretty sure, in vocals.
Yeah, I remember we were trying to nail this opening guitar part for quite a while, much longer at least than we spent on most of the guitar parts, which, when you're making guitar parts that you want to sound sloppy, you don't have to spend that long doing them usually. But this, because that opening guitar part was really pretty... kind of technical. I remember we did it a bunch of times, and Thomas wrote it, of course. But I think that he tried it a bunch. I tried it a bunch. We might have even taught it to you and had you try it because it kind of has like a little whir, as you call it, in the middle,
a little dig-a-dent thing. But we didn't want it to. We wanted it to be kind of. The whole point was it to be feel sloppy.
Yeah,
and but it was hard to play it and have it feel right.
Right. I mean, I remember it being one of the few times on the record where you were like, nope, that's not it. Like you're
just a lot of takes, just over.
We're not getting it right, which is cool. Which is fun as a musician to be like, because it feels like you're excited about it and you know that it can get there, but it's not there, kind of thing. It's opposed to like, yeah, whatever.
It was the only time on the whole record I gave a shit.
No, I just meant it was. I just can remember that we did it a bunch and a bunch and a bunch and a bunch.
Well, there's a few things on this record, like in Tango, where there's that feel of how you guys are playing it that's really important. You know what I mean? Versus like some parts where you're just strumming like down, you know. This song, that feel and that rhythm was so important. So yeah, we probably did a million takes of it till it just felt right. It was kind of like the intro with Ants, the same thing. It was just, it had to feel right, especially
have the feel
being the intro of a song.
Totally. So this song, I think we're also really into Say Anything. Their record is a real boy, and how kind of brash but poppy that record felt. And so I think we were kind of inspired by them to make a song kind of in that vein a bit. And I remember we were on tour when I kind of wrote the main chorus and the lyrics and stuff like that. You know, the main line in the chorus is, despite all maps and borders and all the wars and globes, I've been led to uncharted lands. So it was really just about like, you know, feeling like you're in a new place emotionally more than anything, even though you're in places you've never been before. And yeah, so, and then it kind of, again, this song kind of has one of those little cool button things where the end of the song has just a whole new part, which this is probably, you know, when I go back and listen to the record, this is one of my favorite songs. It just has a lot going on, but in a not overwhelming way, in kind of just an interesting way. And it's catchy, but still interesting. And the message, I think, is told more in a you know, more digestible way, I think, than a lot of the record.
Do you have a good example of that, like in lyrically?
Well, I think just that main line that I said, forget your compass and scars, this world will tear you apart and stuff. And it was just like more relatable lyrically, I think. It wasn't getting too heady. It was more just like emotion. I always liked, I mean, they're kind of emo lyrics, but I always really liked the end is, you know, I could abandon my coast for the opposite edge of the states. I could vanish to the vast cavities of space. But one brute's consistency will forever remain, my endless potential for pain. And I don't know, I was proud of that lyric. I thought it was cool that like I can go anywhere and I can leave everything behind. But he's starting to realize that, like, you know, I can't get away.
You can't leave Wonderland.
You can't leave, you know, your potential for pain behind. That's just always going to be there. So it's also one of the few songs that, even though, quote unquote, my character, I'm still sort of not singing totally from my point of view. It's like this guy who's in this city Wonderland. You know, it's not actually Thomas Dutton. Yeah. You know, but this is one of the few times where I actually say, you know, you close your eyes to dream, I steer and strum towards mine. So I'm saying, like, I drive a car and I play a guitar towards my dreams.
That's cool.
So it's one of the few times in the record where I really kind of reference Thomas Dutton as opposed to like the Thomas character in the story, which is kind of cool. Harry Frazee and No Nanette.
What's that a reference to?
So that's a reference to Harry Frazee owned the Boston Red Sox, and he had Babe Ruth on his team, and his wife really wanted to mount a play on Broadway or on wherever called No Nanette. And so to help fund that project of his wife's, he traded Babe Ruth to the Yankees.
Really?
To get enough money to put the production on, which there's the curse of the Bambino.
Yeah.
So many believe that was the reason that they didn't win a World Series for 86 years or whatever it was.
So that relates to the song how?
Such a diss. I was just really into like putting these little things in songs that I thought were just kind of cool little factoids, and that was one of them. But it relates to the song because this is the song that's from the point of view of kind of like the seasoned, you know, businessman who thought that this way of life was going to lead him to happiness, and, you know, all the money in the world, he would buy his happiness with all the money he made, and he's kind of looking back on his life and is lonely and empty and depressed. And so it relates to it in that sense, that you shouldn't have traded away something that you knew
the greatest player in the history of baseball
because you needed more money, you know?
Yeah.
And so the song's about that. He's like, it starts where I followed every single step. So he's like, I did everything I was told, I did everything I was supposed to do, but I'm alone and I'm lonely, you know? And so that was kind of the whole thing, was that you need to, you know, following the rules and doing what you're supposed to do isn't necessarily the way to the life that you should be living, in my mind. And that's the message I was trying to portray, is that you should, you know, sometimes you gotta go outside the box and you gotta break the rules, and, you know, you gotta take the path less traveled, that whole thing. So in the actual storyline, he kills himself here at the very end. You know, he says, he's never been a big drinker, but tonight his liver wouldn't know it. The burdens have become a crushing load. The wrenching twist will soon cause a shift. The pressure, fleeting and pounding, I feel the trigger give. So that's when he kills himself. And it's also referenced in the next song when it's kind of like the newsies, like the guy selling the newspaper on the street for like a nickel or whatever. He's like, extra, extra, read all about it. And the story that he's selling as the front page news is that this executive, this CEO, is dead or whatever, has been killed.
Production-wise on the song, there was that interesting dink, dink, dunk, dunk sound.
Oh, yeah.
What was that?
So we had gotten these little percussion things. I don't even know what they're
like
called.
claves, kind of?
Yeah, or something like that. They're little plastic ones, and they were different sizes, so they had two different tones.
Oh, they mounted to the drum kit,
didn't they? Mounted to the drum kit, yeah. And we had gotten them like at Guitar Center, and we're playing it like that. I don't know where we sort of got inspired for that, but I think it was your idea to kind of distort them and make them sound kind of super
nuts,
super cool, super different. But it was cool because we were still able to kind of reproduce it live. It wasn't like this weird digital thing that we had a sample, or we had actually played that. But with the distortion, it really added to it.
Did you have to play any tracks live for this record?
No, we didn't.
It's just pretty simple.
The only things we really missed out on was, like the horns on Ear to Ear and some of the extra instrumentation on some of the crazy parts on like Parable and stuff like that, where was, we would just have to condense, and there wasn't 3 mandolins or there was only one. But no, we played everything. We didn't play to a click or anything.
That's how you do it, man. It's rock and roll.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Now I have a full robot band of MacBooks.
For a dreamer, Night's the Only Time of Day.
So this was the last song we recorded.
We were working on the chorus forever, right?
Well, we felt like we needed kind of like a single, like a single or like a more poppy song.
This is a weird song for us to focus on.
Well, no, I mean, so if you take out the outro of this song and the weird breakdown, it is like a super pop. I mean, the first like minute and a half is like super poppy.
Yeah.
It's like very upbeat and like, all very majory chords and stuff. And so I think we were writing it and it kind of just was feeling like just too sugary for us. And it was, I think for you too, it was just like, this song is just too pop, And so that's when we kind of decided, well, what if we just like, it seems like it's a pop song, but we just like throw a wrench in it and it kind of just like starts to just get dark and get weird. And so there's the weird tempo change. Yeah, so it slows down and then it kind of speeds back up, but just has all of a sudden it's like the screws get twisted and everything all of a sudden becomes dark and minor. I remember like the outro too was originally written in like a different key that was much more in my range because of the way that the song. Maybe we changed the earlier part of the song or something, so it bumped up the outro, and I was like, that's too high. Like I can't sing that high. I've like never sang that high. And you were like, you're actually really encouraging. I remember about just being like, you just gotta like yell it, and it's just to me like this yelly, just like growly kind of part, and it'll sound cool. Like you totally trusted it, and I was like, I don't think so. I think we
had to go like line by line because you would just give it as much as you possibly could, and
it was just my voice would be gone. And actually, I got a lot better at it. Like when we would tour, I could like do the whole thing. And
why don't you just change the key of the song on tour?
Maybe we might have a little bit. We might have gone down a half step or something. But I just was so not used to singing that way to like really like. I mean, like it was like really. I was yelling.
It sounds cool.
It does sound really cool. This is probably my other favorite song on the record. It was just, I love that it's catchy, but also still has like these twists and turns and unexpected moments, and there's clever things in it. Again, it's like a simple message that's more relatable and digestible, If morning never brings salvation for either one of us, leave me and save yourself, I'll only slow you down. It's like just kind of this, we got to get out of here song, but.
There's a a drum part on this song right at the tempo change that was a mistake that I ended up liking and leaving in. And
Really?
it's when the tempo change happens and the kick pattern is like dun 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 ka, and you do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And one time he doesn't do the dun 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 ka. He just hits the kick one time.
Dun, dun, yeah.
He doesn't even hit it twice. He just goes dun ta, because
Really?
he just forgot to play it, and I was like that's kind of cool, like just having one kick there. And so we like punched in the music so that it played with his mistake, and I always thought that was a cool little part.
Down.
Because it's a weird timing thing where I don't even know how it's the thing I came up with. I don't even know how to totally explain it in terms of music theory, but like you leave the measure on the and,
Yeah,
but you treat it like the one of the next. You know what I mean? Like the
because
and.
it comes in on
four.
the and, right, when you do
Right,
when
so it's
the
like
tempo change.
Bum, 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 ba-na-na, da-na-na-na, ba-na-na-na. So it's
Yeah.
like it's on that and, but it gets treated like the one. Again, I don't even know how to explain it, but it was this. I remember it took a minute for
And
him
that's
to
probably
get
why
it.
he screwed it up.
Yeah, because he's like, where am I? Okay, there. There it is. There's the beat. But yeah, that's cool. I forgot about that. Yeah, and I liked how it went perfectly with the lyric in the chorus, which is I'll only slow you down, and then we slow down musically, which I thought was kind of a cool little thing. This also kind of had, I think, I want to say that sounds weird, like as a reference point, but I swear we were listening to like the first Maroon 5 record on tour, and it kind of had like these kind of cool, funky.
Yeah. No, I remember this. We
guitars
used it
and
a
stuff.
little bit as a reference for some things.
Yeah, and so the whole part, that little like breakdown that happens after the second chorus was kind of like us trying to do that, where it just switches gears a little bit and.
Slowly, are you listening? On this muted block, everything is paused. Your help blinding reaches my pupils. I taste your skin. I see our kids.
This is them, the climax of like, they're on a high, they're like getting the hell out of Wonderland, they feel great, he confesses his love to her, he says, if morning never brings salvation, leave me and save yourself, I'll always love you. And then I've Got a Witch is them getting to the new, or is them actually leaving and like packing their bags and like being really hopeful, but then getting to the new place, and it's like the exact
same
same
thing.
thing. It's like that scene in Eternal Sunshine where he keeps running down the block and it's the same place. This is another, probably one of my favorite songs when I go back and listen to the record. It's really, really simple. We didn't do anything.
And let's be clear, you listen to this record a lot.
No, I don't. This one is like really simple. Doesn't have any crazy twists and turns. It's really pretty straightforward. And just, it kind of has this big build-up outro thing. But other than that, it's very simple. And Thomas wrote some really beautiful counter guitar part stuff. And this was, the title was a reference to Wizard of Oz. It's a line from Wizard of Oz. She said, I got a witch mad at me and you could get into trouble. I think she says that to like the Tin Man or something, or the Straw Man or whatever.
But maybe you better not. I've got a witch mad at me, and you might get into trouble.
Witch? Huh, I'm not afraid of a witch.
There's also a reference to like an Elvis Costello song when I say, when dawn arrives, we'll be 10 drinks deep if we can fight off turning horizontal.
That's from Elvis Costello?
Well, he talked about like getting drunk and it turning him horizontal or something. I thought it was always cool. It's actually in our song, it's like forced in there. It's one of those things I was talking about where it's forced in there. And It doesn't actually sound good, but I like really wanted to use it. And it just felt like the perfect place, and I just was like, get it in there.
All pieces. So be prepared to sweep me out the door. And I might be horizontal by the time the music ceases. So I think I'll get acquainted with the floor.
In terms of the story, this is, at the very end, they leave. The whole song's about them leaving, but then no matter how far we go, it's all a fragment of a whole. Even if all locks are keyed and or calloused become our feet. So just like no matter how far we go, no matter where we go, we'll take our seats at the throne. Wonderland's our home. There's no escaping the glow. So it's all the same, and no matter where we go. So that was kind of them coming to terms with that.
The outro, or just that, the payoff at the end of the song is so good. The bridge, and then it just hits on the epic outro.
Oh, I remember something about the bridge was the guitar that you hear on the bridge, or whatever, that breakdown part is the scratch guitar, and we just really liked the kind of like janky.
I remember that, yeah.
Way it sounded, and I think we tried redoing it and having it sound like really, more nicely palm muted and really kind of done correctly, but it just didn't have any feeling to it. It didn't have. It wasn't loose enough, and so we went back to the scratch guitar.
Yeah, because I would have had you guys you play to a click track for Jesse to play to track drums on the record, and it was probably just the one take.
Yeah,
and that's what we used because it sounded cool.
Whatever.
Yeah,
yeah, but yeah, it just kind of has like a little feel to it.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's cool.
No matter how far we go, it's all a fragment of a whole. Even if our locks are keyed or callous become a. No matter how far we go.
Cue the Sun. Do you know what that's a reference to?
The Truman Show.
There you go.
I know this one.
You knew one. So that's a reference to the Truman Show, and kind of speaking to the fact that this is the God character who, is Cue the Sun, and this is kind of him just telling the whole story of how it starts with this blank canvas, and he built this place, and the first choruses are these really nice major chords and pretty melody, like look at this world I've created and how beautiful it is, from the oceans and tides to the clouds and blue skies and stuff. And it's like he's saying how beautiful it is, and then we do the exact same chorus, but like with just these really demented minor diminished chords at the end, and where he's getting angry and like, look at the world I've created. Watch as it turns like a top from the malls and estates to the smokestacks and freeways and stuff, and you've wasted this gift and blah blah blah.
As it turns like a top from the malls and estates to the smokestacks and freeways. It's much more than you can afford. You've wasted this gift.
So the way he destroys the world is he says, I'll pull back the blinds and open all your eyes and let the sun drown you all. And that's when there's just like that kind of that "oh" chant over the outro while we play those minor chords and stuff. And so he just vaporizes Earth.
Everyone dies?
It's a sci-fi concept record.
An epic sci-fi record.
Yeah, he's a sci-fi warlord. No.
Interestingly, this is one of, if not the only time I use any reverb on your vocals, and it's on the chorus of this song.
Do you remember why? Or
I think it was just the one time where it felt. Maybe we'd been talking about because this was coming from the God, and it was just this big epic chorus, and it felt like it needed this kind of hangout reverby delay thing to happen over the vocals. It's not like it's not crazy because the rest of the record doesn't have it, but it's in there. There's a little bit of reverb on those vocals.
That's cool. Is there only one vocal of me
on the chorus?
Yeah.
Look at the world I've created. Watch as it turns like it's up. From the oceans and tides to the clouds and blue skies.
I think there's only one vocal of you.
That's so crazy.
Except for Jub Jub, the chorus.
I was gonna say, I mean, that probably felt sort of normal, I guess, back then. That's kind of was the style for what we were doing.
It was what I was going for, though. Like, I mean, like you're saying, if we do these songs today, we probably would do them completely differently.
Yeah, but I mean, were you doing that on like around the same era? Were you doing that on like This Providence and on Gatsby's and stuff?
This was a very different production from all those. Like I would have doubled vocals on certain things on those records.
Yeah.
I was really had it in me. I wanted stuff to be like stripped down and like I wanted it to feel like just dry and punchy and in your face.
Yeah, Jub Jub I remember feeling, I don't know where we got the idea to do all the octaves and all the doubles and triples and whatever we did on the chorus, but it became this very cool, I don't know, because I feel like more traditionally we would have had like quote unquote gang vocals where like Thomas and Jesse would have sang behind me and like that's how you would have filled it out.
I think we tried that.
But then we did this thing where it was all me and it had this kind of cool in unison thing to it where there's almost like a chorus effect on it a little bit because it was all me and it was like almost this one voice but 20 voices and it had a really cool.
Skin I can't see through. Clench my jaw deep down inside. Lick my lips open to find a taste.
So that brings us to the end of the Wonderland record. Now I've got a couple
questions?
I got a couple tweets here from @Amanda Stevens. She wants to know when Wonderland Part 2 is coming out.
Amanda.
Is that ever a possibility?
I know Amanda Stevens, and I just picture her wearing her Wonderland t-shirt, which I know she owns, or owns a few of, maybe. Wonderland 2 is not coming out.
Ever?
No. Johnny Minardi and I always joke about it, and he always tries to like throw me under the bus, and he'll just like randomly tweet out, like, Wonderland 2! It's coming out soon.
So there's no scenario where you could see yourself doing something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I still when I listen to Wonderland, or if I listen to like a really great, kind of rock record, I guess have that, that itch in me that I could be like, ooh, I would feel inspired to write this and sing this stuff. But
so you're telling me there's a chance?
Oh yeah, totally. It wouldn't be like I don't think it would be in any way.
It wouldn't forgive Durden.
No, I was gonna say it wouldn't be like a continuation of the Wonderland story. It wouldn't be like
why not? Oh, the world's all blown up.
Well, but why? I mean, what?
A prequel.
There wasn't a demand. That wasn't the part of the album that I think people are drawn to, was the fact that there was...
Tell it to Amanda Stevens.
Well, I think that there would still be social commentary, and there would still be sort of like, I mean, everything I've done has been about sort of like following your dreams, and there would still be anger at things in society, but I don't think it would be like where we left off in Wonderland or whatever, because, that wasn't... Like I said, if I could go back, that's some of the stuff that I would do differently.
I got one more from @Stage Banter, who was the awesome podcast that I did a little while ago. They are asking, what was engineering and producing with Casey like at his studio with stuff like Tiger and Que Sera?
So working with Casey, working with you, I was able to be like super kind of hands-on and be sitting right next to you and watching how you worked, and I just was like a sponge, and I was probably annoying to you, but for me I was just like able to, because I didn't know how to use Pro Tools and I didn't know how to do this and do that, and so sitting next to you I was able to learn all this stuff. And
just from us recording together though, like you weren't like interning for me or anything.
No, yeah, just from watching the way that you were engineering and recording us, I was able to really learn a lot. You had been you were bringing in all kinds of bands and stuff like that, and so I think you brought me in on a few little things and there was that other kid, What Happened in Vegas.
Yeah.
I think I came in and because I sang on something of his, so I would kind of come in and hang out a little bit.
I should play that verse on here.
That was a cool little part. It was a very Gatsby's little part.
Yeah, he was a big fan of the Seattle music scene, and he's still producing now. His name's Aaron Jerome.
That's how it goes. I was invisible, I lied to myself, and someone to help me, and she's someone who helped me. So don't come here talking about the future. Stuck in this moment, I could never lose her, and I will never lose her. And this I promise you. Why'd you?
Because I think I wrote, he had me sing it, but I wrote my part on his song and stuff, and so anyways, I think we kind of hung out. And so, yeah, I to go back to the question, after Razia's, I was getting better at Pro Tools and liked the idea of bringing in some bands, and you were encouraging of it because it's filling up some of your studio time that you can't fill every week of the year. And so I don't know how did I meet Tiger? Wait, what was the question? Just how was the
what was it? Well, I guess Que Sera was one I remember, and that was I just help you get stuff set up, maybe like just get tones, and then it was like I let you do everything else, kind of a thing. There's a handful of people I've worked with that learned Pro Tools and really got into it, and I thought, man, they could really stay with it and do it. And you didn't go into producing bands, but I feel like it's helped you immensely even to this day, as far as like producing your own stuff and writing your own stuff and doing your own thing.
Absolutely. I mean, my current band and everything. I mean everything. Yeah. I mean, I'm able to record demos and I do co-writing sessions as a songwriter, but I act as a producer, and I'm the person who's tracking everything and making a beat and all that stuff. And I wouldn't have known how to do any of that stuff had I not sat over your shoulder like an annoying little brother.
I don't know about that, but see, you might not be as good as me at Pro Tools right now, but you've like far surpassed me with like going into like Ableton and all these other things. Like I don't, stuff that I don't really use, but you've gotten deep into that.
But I think we're really similar in the sense of like, if there's something, if you needed to go learn Ableton, you would go watch a YouTube you'd go like watch 1 minute of a YouTube and then start using it. You'd hit a roadblock, you'd go Google how to get past that roadblock, and you would continually just teach yourself things by hitting these roadblocks and Googling how to get past the roadblocks, whatever. And
yeah, absolutely.
I think that you haven't had a need to learn Ableton, and I have, and whatever. So, but I feel like I learn I self-teach in a very similar way to you, and in just like kind of trust in my ability to kind of figure it out. And then once I hit something, I go and learn how to get around that or through that, and then keep going, kind of thing. So
I remember I used to get a lot of phone calls and texts from you, and then it would just kind of slowly die off. Like you figured it out.
Figured out.
Yeah,
Might have had to do something with you not responding to anything as well.
That might be it too. Okay, so we're going to end the Wonderland portion of this podcast, and we are going to pick up.
Here, I got a question here.
Oh, you got some questions. Is it for me?
No. I got, will there be a third Forgive Durden album from Matt Hollenbeck? I guess I sort of already answered that.
It wouldn't be Forgive Durden, though, right? If you did a rock record?
I mean, actually, it would be cool. So Thomas Hunter and I, who wrote, all the Wonderland songs with me, we sort of had a falling out after Wonderland. And I wrote Razia's with my brother. But Thomas and I have since become friends again. He actually lives down in LA, where I live now. And we hang out and see each other from time to time and talk about writing together, and he's still an immensely talented guitar player, so it would be cool to kind of reunite with him.
So
wait, sorry, I got another question here.
Gosh, how many questions are there?
No, not many. Somebody said, if you could do it all over again, what would you... I guess I kind of answered this. Wizard Carey at Heavy Crowns. I would go a little simpler in terms of message and scope of the concept and the storytelling, and just try to make it lyrically, more than anything, make it a bit more accessible.
Yeah.
And there's points in the record that feels like, ooh, that's it. Like that's like, moments of I've Got a Witch and moments of For a Dreamer and stuff like that, and really kind of try and key in on what we got right on those songs.
Yeah.
And kind of go in that direction. That's it. That's all I got.
So say for the end of this version of it, like what you got going on right now with Cardi Knox and...
Yes, I have a band called Cardi Knox, which is me and Lonnie, who's the singer. And it's like an electro pop, dancey, synthy, 80s kind of a thing. And we just finished our debut full-length album a little bit ago, and it's going to be coming out in March on Warner Brothers. And we're going out on tour with The Knox in January for a full U.S. tour, coming to a city near you.
Nice.
And
you guys have some songs out right now.
Yeah, we have some older material that we sort of like self-produced, and then we have 2 songs out from the new record, and then a third one's coming out, I think, in January.
And those are on Spotify and Apple Music and all that?
Yep.
Cool. And how do they find you on Twitter and Instagram?
Twitter, me or Cardi Knox?
Both.
Oh, so Cardinox has a very SEO friendly name, and it's just Cardinox wherever you know on any platform.
I guess that's a perfect because that name is so random that you can get any username with. That's cool.
So it's CARDIKNOX. And then on Twitter, I am Thomas Duddy, and on Instagram, I'm Beatrix Kiddo with a 0 instead of an O on the end.
Wow, where's that from?
You don't know what that's from?
I know what it's from.
Okay, it's Kill Bill.
You have a Kill Bill tattoo, don't you?
I do on my foot.
Yeah, that's a cool tattoo.
Next to my Lost tattoos on my feet.
We should do a whole episode on Lost. Let's just bag this Razia's shadow.
Be great.
It starts with a canvas, a starchy blinding white. Then comes the flash of illumination and the tools to record the plight. So I begin drowning the surface with a swamp of acrylic swirls. I'll get it right this time.